This is the Josh Lynott Project. Thank you so much for giving me some time today. This podcast is designed to help you slow down, appreciate the little things, and ultimately go after what you love. This podcast is sponsored by me and What a Sesh, my running and mindfulness retreats. My next retreat is coming up in 2024 in February in Tasmania. But you never know. There's always little updates that may pop up. Maybe it's a little weekender or something fun. But if there isn't, that's all right, because I've got the podcast and you're going to get a lot of little snippets in this podcast that you'd probably get if you came to a session. So think of this podcast like a look in to those sessions. Anyway, it's time to get into today's episode 014 of the Josh Lynott Project. I am stoked to be here. I've just come off such an incredible run today, been out exploring the trails of the Blue Mountains, and I feel like I am overflowing with endorphins at the moment. But before I get into the weekly update and what's been going on, we're going to start with a poem, as we always do. And I actually wrote this one last night. It's called Shipping Container. I won't tell you why, but if you know, you will know. And yes, it was inspired by some photos that have been sent through to me this week. The best piece of art I ever made. It had no name, not even mine. It shouldn't be there, they'd lock me up. In the dark of night, under street light, I was in and out within the minute. Would it be gone tomorrow, or is there more time I can borrow? Let me make the people smile. Give me white walls. Walls need words, because that's how the world turns. Gravity pulls on the heart who reads. Graffiti is the poor man's way to prove what the world needs. Let the artist play. Give them a shot in the middle of the day. I'll paint more walls with no names. I'll change the world with my painting games. Give me my paint. Give me my plate. Give me my space to play. I promise I'll make your day. So that's called Shipping Container. And I will tell you no more about the reasons behind that poem. But if you have seen it, or if you know what I'm talking about, I hope it's made you smile. Well, today I am coming to you from Leura, New South Wales. Second episode in a row from the same location. And this episode is being filmed and will be up on my YouTube channel. Super cool update for me, which made me smile last night, was last week was the first time that I've put my podcast up on YouTube. I put a full 47-minute podcast up on YouTube, and it had more views on YouTube than I had listens on Spotify. I'm not sure how. I don't know why, but it was a super interesting experiment. And like always, this podcast is a forever growing experiment. Even today, I was thinking how the other day Joe Rogan posted that he had done 2,000 episodes, 2,000 podcast episodes. And then I look at Rich Roll and he's done many, many hundreds of episodes, probably up over 700. Maybe he's cracked 1,000, I'm not sure, but he's done a lot. And I look at these people that have been podcasting for so long, and Joe, he does 2, 3, 4 hour episodes. So I was thinking, wow, that could be 6,000 to 8,000 hours of talk time, potentially even more, plus all the research. And then I went into the 10,000 hour rule and I thought, wow, this guy he's up there. He is the best podcaster in the world if you go by the numbers, and you can see why. He has become a master of podcasting. So here I am, very early in the journey, episode 014. It's a good number. My mum loves any multiple of 7, and she's born on the 14th. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe today is going to be a pretty special episode, and I think it is. Particularly coming off the run, buzzing with energy. I'm super pumped about it. But little life update, what's been going on? Plenty of training in the last week, I think, across the disciplines of running, cycling and gym. There were 14 hours of training this week, 2 key gym sessions, put my gym sessions after my hard running sessions. So the idea of that was make the hard days hard and the easy days easy. And that's something that I think I want to continue to adopt moving forward. It's always a little bit tricky trying to do a strength workout after I've just gone and run for 2.5 hours with bouts of intensity. But that's the idea. It's to be able to deal with fatigued legs, to strengthen fatigued legs, and then when the body needs to recover, really give it that. I was saying to my friend Michael today that just in conversation with friends and people around me, I feel like the world is whispering to me, focus on strength, focus on strength. I've had discussions with friends and really need to strengthen my calves, or I raced this and my calves really hurt, or this happened in a race. So for me, I think they are good little kind of nudges and notifications from the world to be like, keep diving into strength. So if you're listening to this, take this as a little nudge and a little reminder that if you're not doing your strength work, I encourage you to do it, because the stronger you are, the more you can handle, the more you can take on. And yeah, we want to be durable. We want to be out there. We want to be exploring, adventuring, running, racing, whatever it is. Even if it is an academic pursuit and it's studying, it's like, are you doing things to strengthen your mind? So that's a little topic that has come up in the last that has come up in the last few days. What have I been cooking this week? Soups. I love soups. A couple delicious soups were made. Made a ramen, which is delicious, and a new dish I did was a spiced beef mince in lettuce cups. So that was pretty good. Bought a new book this week called Wintering, which I'm going to read you a quote from shortly, which will lead into today's topic. But yeah, all in all, lots of time exploring. I've done a fair bit of editing at the moment. Most of my content currently, which is quite interesting, I'm just shooting all on iPhone, editing all on iPhone, doing my voiceovers probably 90% on iPhone, unless I'm putting up something from the podcast. So yeah, my workflow at the moment is just shoot a lot on the iPhone, go into CapCut, edit voiceover in there and get that out. My current goal is 2 reels a day throughout the week, 1 a day on the weekends, drop it back. The Instagram channel is firing every day with a 1%er, with a journal prompt morning and night. So that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, it's not always, I am just stoked with the days at the moment, run and create and eat well. I'm really trying to focus on doing the foundations well. And I think that's about it, really. Yeah, I've just had a great week of training and just want to try and string together another 4 or 5 weeks of solid training before my next race in September. The big A race, which I would like to keep working towards at the moment, is 100K in South Africa in November. I was thinking today, if I have any South African runners, please hit me up. I would love to just discuss a couple ideas. Potentially there's space for a water sesh event in South Africa later in the year, because I've got a race ticket to Ultra Trail Cape Town 100 kilometre, which would be my maiden 100 kilometre race. So the Blueies has been awesome for that. There's lots of stairs, there's lots of vertical up and down. A example of one of the sessions I did last week was an hour 40 up and down stairs. These stairs are a 600 metre climb. Some of them are big, some of them small. And then after that, the back 50 minutes had some efforts in it and was on fire trail. So yeah, Blueies is definitely lends towards a training more specifically for a race like South Africa, which is super cool. And yeah, that's my updates. So let's get into today's topic. Here we go. So with the sessions, as I've previously mentioned or alluded to in other podcasts, there's kind of 6 foundation workshops: decision-making, risk-taking, go slow, support, smash negativity, the 1%ers. There's been other workshops such as consistency or running Q&As or prioritization. But the first 6 that I just rolled through are the ones that I have been developing most. And one of the favorite sessions, which I like to deliver, but it has also been a favorite on the retreats, is go slow. And going back to last week's podcast where I talked about, I think the journal prompt last week was, what is something that bothers you in the world? And for me, it is this addiction to busyness, or this notion of do more, be busy, like just push. And yeah, it's my goal that I really want to help slow the world down. I want to help slow people down. And I had a message come through this week, and it was asking about who the target audience is for my podcast, my reels, my writing, everything I do. And it kind of stumped me when I read it. It challenged me. I was like, who is my target audience for all of this? And in some sense, it's everyone, because I truly think that most people have the capacity, or anybody that comes in contact with my work. I think if you're lucky enough, if you're coming in contact with any form of media that I put out, you're in a pretty good position. You're going to have a phone, you have a laptop, you have access to technology. So, and with that, you probably have running water, access to food, and hopefully some good people around you as well. But if you have access to a phone, you're in the top 1% of the world. Like you are, that is a good start. So who is my target audience, I thought? And I guess it's anybody that comes in contact with me. I hope that I can help them slow down just a little bit. Like, what can I bring to their world that will make them hopefully a little bit more present? Maybe deepen their connections with friends or family. Maybe they'll take a long-term approach, which, as I discussed last week, long-term versus hard work, or long work versus hard work. So I think whether you're 18 or whether you're 70 or however old you are, I really hope there's something that you can take away from my writing, my photography, my videos, my podcast, any kind of content that I make that will challenge you to appreciate the 1%ers and or slow down. So that's where I want to go this week. A book that I have recently bought, which was suggested to me by a friend, is called Wintering by Catherine May. And there was a few little passages in this book that I really enjoyed. So I wanted to read a couple of them to you. In our relentlessly busy contemporary world, we are forever trying to defer the onset of winter. We don't ever dare to feel its full bite, and we don't dare to show the way it ravages us. A sharp wintering sometimes would do us good. We must stop believing that these items in our life are somehow silly, a failure of nerve, a lack of willpower. We must stop trying to ignore them or dispose of them. They are real, and they are asking something of us. We must learn to invite the winter in. That's what this book is about, learning to recognize the process, engage with it mindfully, and even to cherish it. We may never choose to winter, but we can choose how. And I found that quite relatable to the podcast. And I said, in terms of, you may never choose to slow down, but at some stage, life is going to force you to slow down. So if you do have a chance to slow, I want to be the person that kind of helps you engage with slowness mindfully. And a great example of that is the 1%ers. It's no matter what you do, no matter how packed your day is, you can always have an awareness to the small things in life. And if you have that awareness and you stop for just 1 minute or 30 seconds in your day to look at a 1% and be like, I appreciate that. I like that a lot. Well, then just that act alone is slowing down. And then there was another section in the book which I liked. And it said, plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives that they lived in the summer. They prepare, they adapt. They perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation occurs. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but its crucible. And personally, I find this super relatable at the moment because when I started traveling in 2015 and I went and lived in Hawaii for 3 months, and then from there my travels went to the Philippines and Southeast Asia and a lot of island hopping. When I went to Europe, it was in summer. And for so long, I would try and leave Australia in the summer months. And I never saw snow till I was 22. And I haven't even seen like buckets and buckets of snow. Like I've always kind of just stayed out of winter. And then this year and the decision to move and live in the Blue Mountains, it was a decision, as I've said previously, to focus on my running, to focus on my creative output. But it, in turn, is also a decision to slow down, to do deeper work, to nourish myself with good food, with good training. And don't get me wrong, like last year, I had the best time going to Pakistan, to America, back to Australia, and doing all these incredible adventures and going to a lot of events. But I spent so much time in planes or going from Airbnbs to hotels to tents, and there was that season was, whether it was spring or summer, it was fast and it was full of energy. But at the moment, it's like, okay, I want to really kind of drop back a bit. I want to put in this deep work and ultimately come out of this next chapter like leveled up and as a evolved edition version of Josh Lynott. And then there's one more quote that I liked at the start of this book, Wintering, and it says, "Doing those deeply unfashionable things, slowing down, letting your spare time expand, getting enough sleep, resting, are radical acts these days, but they are essential." Radical acts. And it blows my mind that now in the world we live in, that the idea or notion of slowing down has become such a radical act. And a book that I have previously talked about in earlier podcasts, I can't remember which one it was now, but I know I read it in the Philippines. Maybe it was around the Think Week podcast when I talked about stolen focus. But Johan Hari, he talks about how the world is designed at the moment to consume more, to put out more, to do more. And this cycle as such that we're in, to keep this going, we have to sleep less, we have to do more, and it's wearing us out. And not only is it wearing us out, but as Johan Hari said, it's really kind of corrupting and fragmenting our focus. Like we're being pulled in so many directions. And when I've previously ran Go Slow workshops or retreats, I've heard from friends of friends. So my friends have said, okay, I've got a friend of mine going to one of your workshops, Josh. Like they think that you might try and tell them to quit their job or like they can't go and live a life like you're living. And I said, that's fine. Like I'm not here to tell people to quit their job. I'm not here to tell you to move to the bush and go off grid. My biggest goal is I want to help you find a little bit of slow in every day. And if you can make finding a little bit of slow a habit in every day, then that's a win. Whether that's 5 minutes, 1 minute, 2 hours, or 6 hours, it doesn't matter to me how much it is, but I want to bring attention to the slowness. So I'll give you a little insight to what I do on my retreats on What a Sesh. And I'll do a warm-up activity and I'll get people to think about, okay, if you have your ideal day, you write down your current day from start to finish and you write down your ideal day. Look at all the events that you put down in your ideal day. From the moment you wake up, to brushing your teeth, your morning routine, going to the bathroom, breakfast. Maybe you go to the library, maybe you go to training, maybe you go to the beach, whatever it is. Write down in as much detail from start to finish your ideal day. And once you've done that, go through to the very last minute before you go to bed. The more detailed, the better. Then I also get people to write down their current day, what they do, again, from the moment they get up. Maybe they go to work. Maybe this is what they do on the laptop. These are the bills they have to pay. This is when they go to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. All the way through to the very minute that you go to sleep. And then I get them to compare days, looking at your current day and your ideal day. What do they look like? What shift is required to make your current day your ideal day? Perhaps if you're one of the lucky few, right now you are living your ideal day. And that's the goal right there. But then I want to reverse engineer back. Okay, so you now have this framework of the ideal day that you want to live. How can you start bringing in pieces of that to your current day? So that's part one. as you start reconstructing your current day, I want you to think about, where can I put in a little bit of slow? And this is where the next activity comes in, is I want you to pick out a 5-minute block of your day where you can put in slowness. And I want you to think of this block as a brick. You can give this brick a color, you can give it a texture, a surface, a name, whatever. Maybe it's a brick from a heritage listed house that's red and kind of crumbly and it's got a bit of character and bits dinted out of it. Or maybe it's a gold brick. Maybe it's a doorstop. Whatever it is, you get to choose your brick. But I want you to come up with a brick that you can put into your day every day. And think of these bricks like building a wall. If you do put down one brick a day, by the end of the year, you're going to have 365 bricks. And these are little bricks to help you slow down. And another way to think about it objectively, let's just say you work a 9-to-5 job. That's 8 hours, 480 minutes. 1% of a working day is 4.8 minutes. Let's round it up to 5. I want you to pick a 5-minute block of your day, and that's your brick. That is your time to slow down. So maybe that's before you go to the office and you do 5 minutes of mindfulness before you walk in the door. And by doing that, you set yourself up, and that's your brick for the day. And I've had people come to some of our retreats and that's what they've implemented afterwards. Maybe you do it in your lunchtime, or maybe you finish work and you get home and you go and stand on the back lawn, bare feet, no tech, looking up at the sky, feet are connected to the earth. And that's your 5 minutes before you then go and make dinner for the kids, before you go and sit on the laptop, before you do ironing, washing, chores, taxes, whatever it is. But you have that 5 minutes to decompress after work before you enter the next phase of your day. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of how you can implement slowing down within your day. And the next thing that I like to talk about on the session is, what is the cost of being busy? So when I say the cost, it's what is the cost of being busy to yourself, to your relationships, to your work, to your health, to your vision, to your goals. These are the things that I want you to think about. And I love this question on the sessions, and usually I provide a diagram, and as a group we work through it together. So I want you to think about, okay, take yourself to a time where you feel busy. What does that feel like in your mind, in your body? What are your health habits like? Do you find that when you're busy that you're not as kind to the people around you? Are you spending more time on your phone? Are you sleeping well, or neglecting sleep? Like personally, I know that if I'm trying to take on too many things, sleep starts to fall away. When I lose my sleep, what happens? I probably don't eat as well. I'm not food prepping. I'm shorter with my communication. Creatively, I struggle to come up with with ideas that are strong. Even my memory, I know, like when I'm busy and then consequently not sleeping as well, my word recollection dwindles. Like I struggle to remember people's names. I struggle to remember concepts. And that's just one like small or potentially big thing about being busy. But let's just say you're busy and there's just something that you've always really, really wanted to do. You have this dream that you've been thinking about for ages. If you're busy, what is the cost to this dream? these are the kind of things that I want you to think about. Or if you're busy, what is the cost to your family? What is the cost to your friends? Are you being the best person that you can be when you're busy? So when I deliver the workshop on the What Assess retreats, these are the questions that I like to explore and like to ask. And I think that there's so many reasons now that we are busy. Potentially it's busy has become an excuse. And it's a word that I've tried to take out of my vocabulary. A great piece of, I guess, advice that I was given a while ago was, I don't use the word busy, I use the word full. And I use the word full because I chose to live this day on my terms. Whereas if I was to say busy, someone else has chosen how to live this day for me. So when your day is full, it doesn't mean that it can't be packed from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed. And I love to do that. I love to jam as much as I can into a day, don't get me wrong, but I love to jam it with the things that I want to do. Sorry, let me just have a little sip of tea. So, whereas if someone else chose what I did in a day, that's where I would feel quote unquote busy, because I'm not doing all the things that I would really love to be doing or want to be doing. And as a result, I feel that kind of energy build up inside me, and I feel rushed, and I can't give the people, my work, my vision, what I want. And then, so I think that busy is often it just gets passed around like, oh, I'm so busy. But it's like, okay, why don't you say, I'm full right now, but can we do this? Or I'm full right now, I'd love to catch up, but right now my schedule doesn't allow for it. Rather than just like palming people off or using it as an excuse, choose different words around the word. Choose different words instead of busy. And there's just so many different tangents that you can go on. So with the questions I just gave you before, I want you to explore the cost. If you have time, if you're not busy, I want you to explore the cost of what being busy is to you. Or if you flip it, what is the advantages, or how do you feel when you are slow? What does the world look like to you when things are moving slower? What is your health? What are your relationships when things are moving slower? My friend today, he said, oh, you should record the podcast and then publish it in 0.5 and really hammer home going slow. But I would not do that too. I would not like to torture you with, I know I already speak quite slow, so I don't want to put it in half speed. But if you did want to challenge yourself, that would be definitely one of them. And then an analogy that I posted this morning to help you think about being busy is, imagine there is a ceiling fan above your head and you're laying on the bed and the fan's on full speed. If I asked you to pick out a single blade of that fan and focus on it, you couldn't. It would be a blur. And now I want you to think about life in this way. The more you try and fit into a day and the faster or busier your life gets, it's like the ceiling fan. It becomes a blur. And this is why I really want to highlight the importance of slowing down, because when you slow down, you give yourself a chance to notice the things that are going on around you. You get to notice and become aware of the environment that you're in, and you're not just flying through and everything's just a blur. Or it'd be like driving down a highway at 160 kilometers an hour instead of the speed limit at 110, or even if you're in a side street and driving 50 kilometers. When you're driving 20 kilometers or 50 kilometers, look how much more you can take in on the street. Whereas if you flew up a narrow street at 130 kilometers an hour, you're not taking notice of much. And the same applies to life. When you are just all gas, no brakes, life's a blur. And it's hard then to take in the details of life. So, and then another thought I had when I was just writing my notes for today's podcast is when I was little and people would be like, don't rush, you're in school, or your parents say to you like, don't rush, do good work. If you rush, you'll make a mistake. And I thought about why would we want to rush through life? Like, we only get this once. We only have this. It is the most precious thing we have. Like, why are we trying to go through our days on fast forward and make them busier? And it's like, for me personally, whether I'm on this earth another week or another 80 years, I want to slow down these days as much as possible. And I truly believe that we slow down our life when we are present. And to be present, we can't be busy. And if you look at flow state, or if you look at meditation, it all comes back to presence and awareness. And it's trying to remove that busy mind or that busy lifestyle. And not necessarily meditation, for instance, may not come back to removing a busy lifestyle. Maybe it's a tool to help us deal with that more. And even that's like a little slice of slow within your day. But we're not here to rush. There's too many beautiful things and beautiful people in this world for us to rush through life. So that's my little spill on busy today. And if it's something that you feel that you struggle with, or you want to talk more about, or send me a message. We'd love to discuss it. If you want to really dive into it, I would definitely encourage you to come to one of my running and mindfulness retreats. Actually, that reminds me. So where the whole notion of going slow developed and came from for me was from running. And in 2018, or prior to 2018, I had a lot of injuries in my running. I had stress fractures. I had tendonitis. And I was seeing a brilliant podiatrist at the time, and he said, just focus on your heart rate. Try and run with a lower heart rate. He said, every run, go out and target. Try and be below 150 beats per minute to start off with. And then it was January 2018. I was writing my book in Melbourne, and I was staying right near the Tan Loop, which is a super popular track to run in Melbourne. So I went out and I was running around the loop, had my eye on my heart rate data, and I said to myself, at all costs, you will adhere to running below 150 beats per minute. And so I was running about 6:45 to 7 minute pace, which compared to what I run at now and is really, really quite slow. And then relative to the environment that I was in, there were mums with prams that were going past me. And normally if someone goes past me, I love to just try and tag on, or my ego kicks in and I want to pass them again. But I said no to myself, you will stick to this heart rate. And so I did. I let all the people pass me and I just stuck to the heart rate. And then all of a sudden, 3 months went past and I didn't have any injuries. And then relative or comparatively, if I went back 3 months, the pace that I was running at, to run at the same heart rate, I was running at a lot faster pace. So not only had I not been injured, but I had got fitter and I had done it from moving slow. I was like, wow, okay, this is a really sustainable way to go about things. And then I thought, okay, where else can I apply this go slow mentality to my life? And that's where you have the ideas of hard work and long work, and like, what can I take a slow approach to in my life? And then, come 2019, when I did my first What a Sesh retreat, I thought that go slow would be a really important workshop. So that's how the go slow mentality came about. And I'll put it in the show notes as well. But if you want to do a little bit of extra reading, there is a great book. Oh, no, sorry, not a book. I was just looking at my book. There is a great article called The Busy Trap, which was published on the New York Times a while ago. And it is a piece that I often gave out to those that came to my retreats as well. It's like, here's a little preface to the Go Slow workshop. So that's how Go Slow came about. And I hope it has brought or sparked some thoughts for you. And I was trying to think, I don't have a title for this podcast yet, but potentially it could be the antidote to busy. And when I defined what antidote means, it was defined as a medicine taken or given to counteract a particular poison. And I truly feel that in our society now, in this addiction to busyness and doing more and more and more, really is a poison. So I have two little quotes to wrap up. I always finish my Go Slow workshop on retreats with, to live slowly is to live fully. And another quote I have for you today is, do less better. So that's that. My one percenter this week and yesterday was when I went into the bookstore in Blue Mountains in Leura, Megalong bookstore. I got my book and my new journal, and I was paying for it out the counter. And behind the counter, there was a small display of books. And when I looked up, I was like, no way, that's my book. And it was our cookbook, Tasteful. It was up on the shelf in Leura, New South Wales. And I left the bookstore with a spring in my step, smiling, which made me very, very happy. And today's journal prompt is, what does it mean to move slow to you? So here is my answer for this question. To move slow for me means to move thoughtfully. It is presence and attention. The faster I move, the less attention I can give to the details of life around me. I want to absorb it, take it in. I want to be there to see people smile, to see the magic of nature and the moments otherwise missed. I want to write poems and bake for when there are visitors in my home. I want to pick up the phone and have time to talk. I don't want to rush away or wish away the minutes. I don't want time to go faster. If I'm only here for a week or here for another 80 years, I don't want to rush. No good work is done in a rush. So why would I rush the most important thing I have, my life? This is what it is to move slow. So there we go. Episode 014. There is many, many tangents that you can go on. And I hope that I get this podcast out in time. I know that there are a lot of Wednesday listeners to this podcast, but I have been getting them out very late on a Tuesday. So if I get this podcast out in time, and for all those that listen to it the day it goes out, I hope this brings about many good conversations on your Wednesday morning. Shout out to the Finisher Run Club in Victoria and Tom Kenny. He told me that there are a few of you that listen to this podcast and then discuss it. So I hope today gives you a few discussion points. And for everybody that sends me a message and comment on the podcast, I truly appreciate it. And if you found any value in today's podcast or any other podcasts, please leave me a rating. It only helps boost the show and get me out there. And this will be up on YouTube too. That takes a little bit longer for me to upload than the Spotify. But thank you again for listening. And I will see you again next week for episode 015. Get out there, move slowly, smile lots. Appreciate the 1%ers. Ciao.